We love Chris Evans on this channel. What's going on, you guys? My name is Megan. Welcome to This Post Romance. This is my YouTube channel where I talk to you guys about all the romance books I've been reading. And today's video is my June TBR. I read 15 books last month, so we're going to just go ahead and jump into this. And we're going to talk about the books that I read. I actually organized this time. I know we're really shocked. I'm just as surprised as you guys are. So I have it organized in my 5-star reads, my 4-star reads, and then my 3-star reads. And then I had one DNF, and I don't even know how far into it I got. But my one DNF was Never Date Your Best Friend's Brother, or Never Date Your Brother's Best Friend by Jules Barnard. It was on Audible. I DNF'd it. I don't know what else to tell you. We're going to start with my 5-star reads because I know that's what you guys are really curious about. And then we're going to work our way down. I did read quite a bit off of my TBR this month. So that was really cool. I haven't done that in a while. Before I ramble too much, let's just go ahead and jump into this. The first 5-star read I'm going to talk about is a manga. It is the only manga I've read this month. And probably the only manga I've read in my life. And probably the only manga I will read. And that was Dick Fight Island. I don't need to say anything else about it. I read Dick Fight Island. We're going to leave it at that. It was interesting. It was something to read. Izzy said I wouldn't read it, therefore I had to. Here we are. My next 5-star read was, actually came from Bree over at 11 Words. I have 2 of Bree's recommendations on this list. But this one, I was getting ready for work one morning. I had Bree's video playing while I was getting ready. And she said that the main character, the male main character, was like Captain America. And you guys know, that's all you have to say. Captain America, Chris Evans, any Chris Evans character, I'm here. I'm in. I'm sold. Let's read it. I was not disappointed. It was A Secret for a Secret by Helena Hunting. This is like the 4th or 5th book in a hockey series that Helena Hunting has. This book followed Kingston and Queenie. They kind of had a one-night stand where they did everything but have sex. And then Queenie leaves before King wakes up. Leaves a post-it, doesn't leave her number. 6 weeks later, she walks into a team meeting with the general manager for Kingston's hockey team that he plays for as the assistant to the general manager. Also her dad. Kingston was very sweet, and I understand his Captain America-ness. I understand where Bree got that and why she said that, because he was loyal to a fault to Queenie. Nothing steered him away. He took care of her even when she felt like he shouldn't. Like, even when there were moments where she was like, I need to handle this on my own, he's like, that's cool, I'm gonna let you, but you're gonna know that I'm here for you, and I'm gonna like send you to a spa and like treat you for the day. He was so sweet. And even when the big kind of conflict happens in their relationship, but also like in their lives, like outside of their relationship, just like this big conflict that happens between the team, basically the team and them, and like her dad, this new player comes in, he causes all this trouble. He never, his loyalty to her, his love to her never falters. And I loved that. Let's talk about my favorite line, which came from Kingston, where Queenie was like, you don't need this. You can have a normal life with somebody else who doesn't have all this baggage, essentially. And he says, looks her in the eyes and he says, I will gladly accept your chaos. Kingston and Captain America, I get it. He was also a Boy Scout, so I totally understand. I also read Wishful Drinking by Carrie Fisher. I listened to this on script. I do own it physically. I don't have it with me. This book was on my TBR for June. It was Carrie Fisher's one-woman show that they turned into a novella based around her time getting electric convulsion therapy. She actually narrates this book, which was absolutely amazing, and Carrie Fisher was taken from this world far too soon. If you don't for some reason know, Carrie Fisher was Princess Leia in the Star Wars trilogy, the original Star Wars trilogy, and she was a big advocate for mental health. She's won multiple mental health awards. She was outspoken about all of her issues, and that's why I love her. In this novella, she actually touched on her father's infidelity to her mother, growing up with famous parents, and like what that was like. After she gave birth to her daughter, her husband actually came out as gay and went on to, I believe he went on to marry a man. shortly thereafter he came out. They had a great relationship. Like once that dust settled and they were able to talk about it, they had a great relationship. And at the very end, she says, you know, no matter what has happened in my life and no matter what I've done, I've always remembered this poem. And then she gives the entire monologue from A New Hope, the monologue she gives to R2-D2, and the hologram pops out to get to General Obi-Wan Kenobi. And A New Hope is my favorite Star Wars movie. I will not be taking comments or questions on this. A New Hope is my favorite. But after she recites it, this is the very end of the book, after she recites that, she says, I can still remember this whole speech. This is why I smoke dope. And I loved Carrie Fisher. She's fantastic. And this book just made me love her even more, if that was possible. Next on the 5-star list was The Gravity of Us by Brittainy C. Cherry. This was another book, number 1, that I've heard Bree talk about a million times, but number 2 that was on my TBR. This book follows Lucille, or Lucy, and Graham, or Graham Cracker. Graham's father passes away, and Lucy is a florist, and all the florists like in the area are invited to come. His dad was some big author. All the florists in the area are invited to bring flowers, but they have to take them back. Lucy and Graham get locked out together, locked out of the arena where they're having the funeral. Graham's wife Jane finds them, and Jane actually ends up being Lucy's sister, and all kinds of craziness ensues, as you would expect. I hated everything about Jane / Lyric. Everything she did made me mad, as it was supposed to, as it was intended to. Jane was pregnant and ends up going into preterm labor because she smoked throughout her pregnancy, but then blames Graham for the fact that she went into preterm labor. It was ridiculous. Lucy ends up pitching in and helping out with her niece. Watching Graham's heart melt as Lucy came around was just absolutely amazing. It was fantastic. I loved this book. I made my mom read it. It was great. It was literally opposites attract, because Graham was very straight-laced and he calls her Lucille because he thinks Lucy is very childish, whereas Lucy wears flower crowns and is very hippy-dippy and wants a garden. They are polar opposites. But Graham goes out and he builds her this garden in his backyard. Oh my god. This book was fantastic. I loved it. Also, from my TBR and on the 5-star list is Ink by Elizabeth Hunter. When I first started the book, I did not think it was going to get 5 stars, but by the end, I didn't have a reason not to give it 5 stars. So, this follows Ox and Emmy. Emmy's grandmother passed away and left her bookshop in this little town in California. Emmy is trying to decide if she wants to sell it or if she wants to keep it, and she ends up deciding to keep it, but she needs something else in there in order to keep the bookshop going. Ox is a tattoo artist who worked across the street, and he ends up losing his job, essentially, and he moves across the street to the bookshop, and they open a bookshop / tattoo parlor, and it was super interesting. It worked better than I expected it to. It was just so good. It was so good, this whole book. I couldn't put it down once I started reading it. And the gesture at the end, I 100% agree. I shouldn't say 100%. There is a point in the book where they talk about the fact that if it's not a parent or a child, essentially they will never get a name tattooed on their body. So if it's not like their parent's name or it's not their child's name, they won't get a tattoo on their body with another person's name because it's a curse. But Knox's gesture at the end was just, that book was amazing. And I really recommend it if you're looking for something a little bit different. The next 5-star read is Can I Come Over by Whitney G. This book is available on KU. I got it from Temecka. This was a dad's best friend novella, so it was really short. Follows Christina and Dane. And they've known each other for years. Dane was her dad's friend who always picked her up at the airport when she visited her dad. And Christina decides she wants to be a romance writer, so she writes under the pen name Bella J. Swan. And she joins this, like, chat room almost. where she has like a pen pal and they send each other emails back and forth. And she's been sending emails to Ryan. Ryan ends up helping her write a sex scene. And then they decide after like 8 or 9 months of messaging they should probably meet. And Dane was Ryan. Oh my god, this book. It was Dad's best friend. There was a lot of sex. The one thing I will say, and Temecka and I had a big discussion about this, and if you've ever watched a Temecka video, you know she's a big daddy kink fan. This was a dad's best friend that did not have daddy kink. And I so appreciated that, because I don't mind daddy kink in books. It doesn't bother me. It bothers me when it's your dad's best friend daddy kink. Like she's known, if this had been daddy kink, she's known Dane for years. If she called him daddy, that would be really weird to me, and it would have turned me off. The fact that they didn't, I really appreciated it. I feel like Whitney G kind of understood that. And maybe I'm weird and that wouldn't have bothered a lot of people, but it would have really bothered me. It would have really messed with me. This book was super sweet. It was super cute. I don't even want to say it was sweet. It was very spicy. I loved it. I loved it. And then another 5-star read, mostly because I didn't have a reason not to make it 5 stars. Once again, was 30 Day Boyfriend by Whitney G. I listened to these 2 books on the same day. Got it the same way. But this book follows Emily and Nicholas. Emily is Nicholas's assistant and she's looking for a new job. But she had signed an employment contract with Nicholas when she started that basically said, you work for me for 4 years before you can find a new job. And she's like 2 years in and she's doing interviews at these places. So she's telling him, you know, I have a doctor's appointment and it's an interview. And he is shutting these interviews down behind her back. So in order to land a new client, he approaches Emily and he says, I need you to be my fake fiance so that I can land this big client. If you do this, I'll give you whatever you want and I'll let you out of your employment contract. The angst. It was not on Nicholas's side, but on Emily's side specifically. It was very enemies to lovers. You could tell she struggled with Nicholas. But as it went on and as she got to spend more time with him outside of work, you got to see that relationship grow, and it was really cute. There was a lot of angst, a lot of tension. I'm a big fan. This book was significantly better than I thought it would be, and it did not disappoint. I also read Burn For You by J.T. Geissinger, which is available on KU and Scribd. I listened to the audiobook on Scribd, and I didn't, for whatever reason, like the male narrator specifically, I love that male narrator. I think it's Sebastian York. I love his voice, but for whatever reason with this book, it grated my nerves. So I had to actually, like, I borrowed it from KU, and I read it that way. Got a couple content warnings for you on this one just to be safe. There is cancer, there is a discussion of suicide, and then there is death of a family member. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but also like mixed with a little bit of Princess and the Frog. Bianca owns a restaurant in New Orleans, and she uses Jackson's family's bourbon, the Bordeaux family bourbon, as a pairing with her dessert menu. Jackson finds out about it, goes to her restaurant. He's total douchebag. Total douchebag. But he ends up essentially doing the same thing that happened in 30 Day Boyfriend. He offers Bianca money if she'll marry him so he can get his inheritance without having to go back to work for his family's bourbon company. Bianca has had something happen in her life where she needs the money. So it all works out. It works out for both of them. I understand it being a Beauty and the Beast retelling more so now that I reflect back on it than I did when I was reading it. It was really good. Just a side note, when I first started it, I thought I was going to DNF it because they were talking about bourbon in New Orleans. I'm from Kentucky. If you don't know, if you can't tell from my accent, I'm from Kentucky. Bourbon is a Kentucky thing. So I was like, oh no. Oh no. But then it comes out Jackson's family is in Kentucky. He's from Kentucky. He just doesn't live in Kentucky anymore. And Bianca gets to see this side of Jackson that no one really sees. It ended up being much, much better than I expected it to be. Let's talk about this one. I can't believe I gave this one a 5-star, and I think I was half asleep when I did it. I was just glad that I finished the book. But Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. This book is available on KU. I did read it on KU. It is a bully romance between Ryan and Misha, and it's probably the only bully romance I'll ever read until someone like gives me more info on it. I won't pick up a bully romance on my own. I will have to be persuaded into it. Ryan and Misha started as pen pals when they were in like 5th grade because they were misgendered at each school. Ryan's school thought Misha was a girl and Misha's school thought Ryan was a boy. There is a content warning for death of a family member and just bullying, obviously. Ryan and Misha also agreed once like social media became a bigger thing that they weren't going to look each other up on social media, and they never did. It was at the HEA at the end made the book worth it for me. Had it ended any other way, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much as I did. And finally, the last 5-star book I have on this list is Little Dove by Layla Frost. I don't know. I think it's on KU. I don't know that for sure. I borrowed the audiobook from Temecka. Content warning for death of a family member, but not technically a loved one, and a kidnapping. But it's a daddy kink romance between Maximo and Juliet. Maximo and his men kill Juliet's father. They don't know she's there. Maximo ends up taking her back to his house and has her set up in this big room and has servants for her and all this stuff and takes really good care of her. She had just turned 17, so she goes through this entire year, and then when she turns 18, he has birthday dinner with her, and he essentially says, we can have this kind of relationship, or you can stay here as long as you like and I'll still take care of you, but we don't have to have any kind of romantic relationship. She agrees to it. There's no persuasion, anything like that. There are fights, which you guys know. I love. He literally takes care of her in every way possible, and I appreciated the way they described daddy kink in this book. It wasn't a daddy issue, daddy kink. It was Maximo wanted to take care of her in every aspect of her life. And so there was no like age play or anything like that. Like there were spankings and stuff, but it wasn't like a lot of the daddy kink that I have read. Let's talk about my favorite line from this movie though. They sit down to watch Marvel movies, and she wants to watch Thor because she loves Chris Hemsworth. As you would. Have you seen him? So she goes to turn on Thor, and Maximo's like, well, have you watched the other ones? And she said no, and he says, well, this is a cinematic universe. You know, you have to watch them in order, so we have to start with the first Captain America movie. Direct line. I listened to this line 4 times so I could get this right. A Hemsworth may make a girl do crazy things, but Chris Evans will make them do batshit crazy things while he cheers them on and encourages their individuality. We love Chris Evans on this channel. We do. We love him. We love Cap. We love Chris Evans. And outside of that, like, the book was fantastic. Even, like, remove that line. That was just a bonus. Like, I loved Little Dove. This book was fantastic. I loved it. And I am begging to get to read another book. So we'll just add it to the TBR for Temecka. I'm going to keep one for her. But here are all the books you need to read that I've told you to read. Those were all my 5-star reads. I had a ton. I have a couple 4-star reads, and I've got 1 3-star read left to talk about. The first 4-star read I want to talk about is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I listened to this on Scribd. It is available on Scribd, and it follows River and Jess. River basically has a kind of a company like Tinder mixed with Ancestry.com or like 23andMe. You spit in a tube, and they can tell you like other people that have submitted their DNA. They will match you based on your genetics. Now, like with Tinder, you get to set your range. You can say no to any dates. Like, it's not, you're not forced to date somebody just because you're a high match. You can be, you know, you can set your match range. So, like, I think 15 to 100 or something. And that's what Jess's friend Fizzy does. She has like a low match point, and she can meet all these people and see how they mesh genetically, because they know that they're not going to find a complete genetic match for everybody. And you have the option to turn that down. You have the option to submit your DNA and then have your profile removed because you organically met somebody. It's nothing like that. It's optional. And I really enjoyed it. Jess has a daughter, and I loved her daughter. I loved her daughter and Nicholas and River Nicholas's relationship. It was very sweet. I did give this book 4 stars though. It just didn't do what I thought it was going to do. I think In a Holidays is still my favorite Christina Lauren. So it's hard, now that I've read 3 Christina Lauren books, it's hard for a book to live up to In a Holidays for me. My next 4-star read is from my TBR, and that is Mr. Fixer-Upper by Lucy Score. This is on KU. I read it on a road trip, and I definitely thought it would be a 5-star, so I'm a little surprised that it wasn't. It wasn't a 5-star, but also wasn't a 3-star. I mean, it's like a perfect 4-star read. No joke. All the reviews and stuff on Amazon were like, oh my god, that shower scene. Oh my god, that shower scene. The shower scene was, I mean, it was fine. I've read better. There were better scenes in the book, I thought. This book follows Gannon and Paige. Paige is a producer for Gannon and his sister's reality show. They have like a home reno show. I don't watch those, so I don't know a whole lot about it. He is actually a contractor. He took the job to save his grandfather's business after his grandfather passed away. I will say one thing I understood that Paige was doing. She and Gannon starting at a relationship, and Paige actually decides not to do it because she's afraid that if she starts having this relationship with Gannon, if that gets out, that she will never be taken seriously and she will have trouble ever finding positions outside of these home renovation shows. And I don't blame her for that. I totally get it. There's some like TV created drama. Wasn't as good as I expected it to be, but at the same time it wasn't terrible. I did really enjoy it. If it sounds interesting to you, I do recommend it. There really weren't any trigger warnings in it. Gannon, I do have to say, Gannon is really, really sweet. And he is the kind of guy that if he makes a mistake once and he either knows or he can tell that it bothered you, he will never make that mistake again. You will never catch him make that mistake again. And I really appreciated that because I feel like we don't see that enough. We have Fighting the Attraction by Kelly Papyrus. This was an MMA romance. It also took place on Fight Island. It happened during COVID. So this was my first COVID romance. So basically Terry is a fighter. Layla is a media employee for the Gladiator League, which is like the UFC. Super short. I don't remember any steam in it or anything. It was 9 chapters, and I think it was like a 3-hour book. So it was good. It's only available on Scribd. I couldn't find it on Kindle, on Amazon, or anything like that, and it also was not on Goodreads. I do have to commend Kelly Papyrus. They did their research. Fight Island I feel like would be really hard to write about if you didn't look into it. None of the other MMA promotions did something like this. It really felt like Kelly Papyrus did their research in figuring out like what the protocols were for Fight Island. Abu Dhabi had set up Yas Island for the UFC. It was quarantined. They had like all kinds of fight days there. It was really cool to read after following Fight Island and like being an MMA fan. It was really interesting to read this. I also listened to on Audible Muffin Taught by Avery Flynn. This book was better than I expected it to be too. It's also part of a series. This book followed Lucy and Frankie. Lucy is plus sized and she knows Frankie, but she doesn't like know Frankie on a deep level. They're kind of like, may not even be acquaintances technically. Lucy ends up being harassed by a guy at a bar who's like, if you would just eat a salad and not eat burgers and drink Mountain Dew, you have the face of a model, you would have a boyfriend. Frankie steps in. He has been he's been forced to take his 3 weeks of vacation he's been storing before the fiscal year rolls over. So he agrees to go to her high school reunion and go to her hometown. There's only one bed scenario. Frankie is a big softie. He's a 6'6" gender firefighter. He is a huge softie. Also, another funny point is that Lucy's dad is a sex therapist, and he tries to like talk to them about it. And Lucy's super cool with it, and Frankie's like, I'm not comfortable talking to your dad about any part of my sex life with you or with anyone else, which was really funny. Muffin Top was really cute. And finally, we'll talk about my 3-star read for the month. That was The Engagement Embargo by Samantha Chase. I listened to this on Scribd. It was a best friend's brother romance. And you guys know, I love brother's best friend. I love best friend's brother. Any variation of that statement. This one followed Elliot and Skylar. Skylar owned a wedding planning company with Elliot's sister, who was also Skylar's best friend. And Elliot has been engaged 4 times. And his last engagement, actually, he was at the altar with her. Her best friend was officiating the wedding. Best friend says, you know, I know this is a bad time, but I'm in love with you and I think you should run away with me. In front of everybody, including Elliot. They run off down the aisle. And Elliot's left heartbroken. His entire family, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever was there, part of their family, goes to Elliot in the groom's dressing room and is like, you are not allowed to date anymore. No more dating for a year. You're on an embargo. You can't do it. Skylar ends up taking him home after that. She breaks his phone. There's this whole big thing. But they end up getting really close. Elliot and Skylar end up like having this like secret friends with benefits relationship, and feelings are caught, and Elliot's trying to play it cool, and Skylar is kind of like over trying to play it cool, and she's like, let's just do this. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. And Elliot ends up screwing it up. His grandparents end up meddling in their relationship, and it is adorable. This book, the grandparents made the book, and honestly, I probably would have read, it probably would have been higher rated if the grandparents were more involved in the book. They didn't come into the last like 15% or something, to like the extent that I would have liked. So while I enjoyed it and it was cute, it wasn't like knock your socks off. It wasn't spectacular. I kind of had to force myself to finish it, and that is why it was a 3-star read. That's it for me. Leave a firework emoji or a celebration emoji down below. It is Steve Rogers' birthday today. I'm filming this on the 4th of July. So leave some form of celebration emoji down below. You can leave birthday cake. I don't care. Leave whatever you want. Just a celebration emoji down below if you made it this far, because I know this video is a little longer than normal. That's it. That's all I got. So until next time, guys, just be good to yourself and take care of yourself. And I will see you all in my next one. Bye, everyone.